Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Newsflash Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Emilio. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for joining me this evening. I've got a very special guest, but before I bring on that guest, I got two announcements. First, you got to go to the description below. You got to vote for me in the Free SA Young Leaders Awards. I'm in the media category. I'm a finalist, and I need as many votes as possible. So please, it's the first link in the description. Go there. Very simple, takes you a few seconds. You can do it now while you're watching. Just vote for me. Make sure you've selected the media category and vote for me. One vote, that's all you need to do. Don't do any more votes. Duplicates do not count. And second announcement, ladies and gentlemen, the guy I'm going to have onto the show has been, I don't even know what the correct, attacked is not even sufficient enough to say. And we're going to get into that a little bit more later in the show. But I do want to announce first and foremost that if you want to help his legal battle, ladies and gentlemen, his banking details are in the description for you guys to donate to his legal cause. And without further ado, I think some of you already know this man. I don't need to give him an introduction. He just surpassed 150,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. I can only aspire to get there, ladies and gentlemen. So please put your hands together. Welcome to the stage, or to the show, rather. Renaldo Gouws.
Hi, how are you doing? Joe?
I'm good, Ronaldo. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Listen, I just want to off the bat say well done on becoming a finalist. I
Oh,
have
thank you.
shared that. I've told people to vote for you, and I will continue to do so. Remind me.
I
And
will do.
also, well done on this channel, man. I'm so like I told you off air, but I'll say it again. I think you're doing a phenomenal job at adding a different dimension to the news. I think that you are bringing you're making it more palatable for a lot of people to enjoy. I scream and shout and I get upset, and you like make a joke out of it, which, well, most of the time, and it's funny, it works, and thanks for what you're doing. And I really do hope if any of my usual subscribers are on here and they haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to Joe, please.
Thanks, man. Listen, I'm going to say it right off the bat because I'm sure there's a lot of people that actually don't know how far you and I go back, because we actually met virtually during lockdown, right?
Mhm.
And I was quite unknown in terms of the YouTube sphere. And you had me on your show. We had a nice chat about comedy. And since then, you and I have actually been really good friends.
Mm.
We've met a few times in person when you were in Cape Town and I was in.
Joe has wined and dined me.
Yeah. Let's get right into it, because I think the first topic that everybody's going to want us to talk about is, and I'm sure you've discussed it on your channel, but just in case there's somebody that may have missed it, your ongoing battle with the South African Human Rights Commission. Um, I think where I want to start with that is, like, I want to know, like, when this all first started. You got the this journalist pestering you. Um, you obviously saw the clip. Did you panic at all when you first saw that doctored clip? Like, were you like, was your heart in your throat? Were you just like, oh, for fuck's sakes, get this away from me? Like, what was your first reaction to that?
So the reason I remember what day it was, because usually I don't know, maybe I would have remembered it irrespective, but it was on the day that the president was sworn in at the union buildings. So I remember sitting there, and I had a lot of fun that day because, it was something new. It was really an experience. Seeing, the most important person in the country being sworn in as a president. So I was sitting there, I engaged with, some people from the ANC, a lot of the DA people that we, sat close by with. And it was fun. And then I received this SMS, and it was like, "Hi, did you ever use the K word in a video?" And I was like, "What? Who's this?" And then eventually the next comment was, "Oh, it's this individual. What is his name again? I can't even remember his name.
Let's
The
let's not
journalist.
let's not give him airtime. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So then he said, like, "Did you say this?" And I said, "Well, I need more context." And then he called me and he asked me, did, and I said, "Can you send me the stuff that you have?" Because the reason I asked that is because 2 days prior, another video came out that somebody dug up, and it was completely, once again, taken out of context.
Mm.
In that video, I said, like, if Africa had to disappear off the face of the earth, no one would notice.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, what I said before and after that is that South Africa, well, Africa is very much, people overseas see Africa as a welfare state. Now, I know that it's because, for many centuries they came in and took the resources and then they would leave again. And, I mean, they even got their slaves from Africa. The point that I was making in that video is that in today's society, if Africa had to disappear, the rest of the world would probably do a sigh of relief because they wouldn't have to spend billions in funding Africa and also the wars that are in Africa. Now, of course, I feel different about that now because back then I said that many, many years ago. So with that in the background, that was whether I was even contemplating going to the president being sworn in, because I knew the media was going to come and approach me and ask questions. But then that dropped. And eventually the journalist sent me a snippet of the video. And I said, I remember a lot of people saying, oh, Ronaldo said it's AI. Look how he lied. But I was like, this must be AI because, firstly, I would never have made a 15-second video. I didn't even think that they snipped the video. I just went, nah, this is not something I would say. Send me the whole video or whatever. And then I got a phone call from Helen and I said, I can't recall making this video because you have to understand, I've made thousands
Yeah.
of videos. I know it, people will go, how do you not know, that you said that? And I'm like, well, firstly, it was 15 years ago. Secondly, that video was deleted. I mean, all of these things, just remember now, I now know the facts because I did a deep dive, right?
Yeah.
So this is all being said in hindsight.
Yeah.
That video was deleted in 2013. So for 12 years, that video eventually just escaped out of my reality
Yeah.
because, you know, people became more accustomed to the Kill the Boer song. And then eventually that was before I entered politics.
Yeah.
Long answer, sorry, but did I feel shock? Yes, I was worried because 2 days prior that other video came out and this was kind of a big deal,
Mm.
like, and I was like, should I go? And I asked Siviwe, I asked John, and I asked Helen if I should go to the opening ceremony or the swearing in of the president. And Helen said no. And John and Siviwe said, yeah, man, go. Like, we'll deal with this. We know what you meant. And then that dropped. And the moment it dropped, and the journalist, when he ended the conversation by saying, I'm sorry that I ruined your life, I went like, okay, clearly they're coming for me. And I was worried. I I actually phoned my wife and I said, listen, I think my political career is over. Not necessarily because of the fact that, of the video or anything, but because I knew that they were coming for me and they were
Yeah.
going to continue to come for me. If it wasn't that, then they would find something else. Like, I'm pretty sure that if I was still in parliament, they would find something else to take out of context and blame, because if you put enough pressure on somebody, I mean, look what's happening with Roman
I was gonna
Cabernet. Like,
say, yeah.
the Sunday Times still
Hmm.
is obsessed with Roman Cabernet. They still not letting this go because they don't have their trophy.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They don't have their trophy yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, to answer your question, I was shitting bricks a little bit, especially on that flight back because we
Yeah.
flew back the same day, and I kind of knew because he said that they breaking he said on the phone or somewhere he said something that they'll within the hour it's going live, and I was like, even like I could defend myself if it was definitely AI, but I would still think that there would be consequences,
Yeah.
irrespective, because the DA would probably just go, hey, we didn't sign up for, this amount of baggage.
Yeah.
Um, but when I got home, and because I've got an archive of all my footage, and when I looked for where I wore maybe a similar green T-shirt and that, eventually, like, I found it. And then the first thing I did was I sent Helen, Saviwe, and John a WhatsApp to say, the video is real, but it's a lot longer than 15 seconds. It's 6 minutes and 22 seconds, not 15 seconds. And yeah, the rest is what everybody knows.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, for those haters who say, like, "Oh, come on, Ronaldo, you should remember every video." Listen, dude, I've also done, I think I checked the other day, 1,200 videos on my channel. And the channel is 5 years old because it
Mm.
started when lockdown started. Um, I definitely don't remember every single video. It's impossible. It's impossible. Like, anybody can go into whatever archive, whatever. Some, do you remember this from 3, 4 years ago? And I'll be like, no, actually, I didn't know I did that. Because you do forget. It's you make a video, you post it, and you let it go into the ether. You might follow it for the first week to see how the views do and reply to comments, but after that, you can just kind of forget about it. Also, because the news is changing in what you and I do, talking about the news, it changes almost on a dime. Look at the past
Mm.
few weeks with Trump and everything that's happened. I mean, there was, I think 2 weeks ago, it was crazy. You and I were making videos left, right, and center. And I definitely
Yeah,
don't remember everything I said.
and also that's exactly that, but also the fact that I deleted the video, so I didn't even have access to it on my YouTube to go
Yeah,
back and reminisce of things that I've done in the past. And also, I mean, look, I made a lot of angry videos back in the day,
yeah.
like,
But that was the
that was,
trend back then. That was like what
yeah, it
people
was,
did.
the whole alter ego thing, because you played a character, hence why my name was Rendir,
Yeah,
like, and the whole thing was to look. I mean, my video started where when I started YouTube, it was like a reactionary channel to
yeah,
like people that took themselves way too seriously on YouTube.
yeah,
And then a lot of people like picked up on my accent and they're like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "South Africa." And they're like, "But you're white." I mean, that is really that is what happened. And then my videos started going more into a political aspect, and then, of course, like those were the Zuma years.
yeah,
Those were the years where we had like somebody that didn't even have a grade two education as the president. 2010 is when they started singing "Kill the Boer."
hmm,
Um, so yeah, I mean, believe me or don't believe me, it doesn't really matter anymore. But I really, when that journalist asked me about that, I could not recall that video. And of course, the funny part is that subsequent to my claim of the video being AI, there has been a bunch of AI videos that has come out, of DA individuals and also other politicians that the media is now questioning. Is it real? Is it
yeah,
fake? And it's just like, I knew how far ahead AI was, and a lot of other people knew as well.
yeah,
Um, and now it's like, yeah, I mean, the separation is 6 months, but it feels like a year, 2 years, if
mm,
if you have to think about it. But not making excuses. I did make the video, but the way that the media reported on it was just completely butchering it. I mean, like even when I look at that video of 15 seconds, I go like, wow, that guy's a racist,
yeah,
But if you look at the video in context, hyperbole, of course, is an exaggeration to make a point,
exactly.
and a lot of people come in, they say, but Ronaldo, why did you use the K word and the N word? And it's like, look, if I had to make that video, I would say from 2013, I wouldn't use those terms.
Yeah,
Firstly, because I don't agree with it.
mhm,
Secondly, you also have to understand that in 2010, the media and like literally in 2008, 9, 10, 11, when somebody said something racist, the media would report on it by using the term. So the news reader would be there and they would say, Johan is now in court. He used, and then they would say the full term. So it's two things. The first thing is it was hyperbole to exaggerate a point to say, this is because remember, 2010 is when they sang it publicly for the first time, kill the boot, kill the
yeah,
farmer. So now everybody is so used to it because they sing it every week. But in 2010, that was the first time since we became a democracy when that song was being sung.
mm,
So my reaction to it was to be extreme to show how unacceptable it is. So that context is removed. And then secondly is back then, the mainstream media outlets used the full term when they were reporting on those situations. A great example is, sorry, that video was up for 3 years. That video was publicly available for 3 years, and it amassed 100,000 views, and the like to dislike ratio was 75% thumbs up and 25% thumbs down. And it featured on, what was it, Deborah Patter's show, Third Degree. It featured on Third Degree, and throughout all of that, nobody decided to take me to the South African Human Rights Commission.
Yeah,
You
fair
know,
point.
when it was fresh and when it was new, because the people understood the context. They knew what the point of the video was. But then fast forward 15 years or 14 years later from, when all of this happened, and you've got you've got a very good ammo against me if you take it out of context, which is exactly what happened.
But let's be honest, Ronaldo. I mean, like, you just explained why you made that video. You just explained the context of the video. How did the DA not side with you? That's the part that I don't understand. And I think a lot of people can see that. A lot of people can see, like, well, Ronaldo's just making a point here. I think any rational person, regardless of how they feel about using the terms that you used, okay, yes, some people will feel a bit iffy about that, some people won't. But at the same time, when they look at the context, they'll understand what you were trying to say and be like, no, that's actually a fair point. Now, why do you think the DA just, because, okay, so let me put it this way. I've heard rumors, not going to mention names, maybe you've heard them too, that you were like some kind of sacrificial lamb to the ANC. Do you think
Yeah,
that's the case?
so my initial thoughts were, and it's so weird because I have to give you like a little bit of background. I never thought that I would make it to Parliament based on the fact that I had a YouTube channel. I was told very distinctly that you're not bigger than the party. Stop making YouTube videos where you must choose. Do you want to be a celebrity? Do you want to be or do you want to serve the community and be a politician? And I said, well, you can be both. Not a celebrity, but making YouTube videos and informing people. I mean, both of those things are passions of mine, and I don't think that I would have ever entered politics if it wasn't for YouTube. So a lot of people from the outside in the DA see it as me trying to cement my mark. I don't know if they feel threatened that eventually I would stand for leadership or something. I mean, that's something I would never have done. And I've told many people that, like, there are more qualified people that have the brain capacity and the way in which they present themselves that could be more palatable for everybody. I'm not that person. I know that I'm not that person. So I never wanted to be a leader or a provincial leader or anything like that. I just wanted to go and make a difference. That's what I wanted to do. And that is why I've always been so vocal, is because I think a lot of people, it resonates with them, the frustration, the anger. Um, I hate it when people act like, they suddenly now in a different league, and now they have to act a different way and they mustn't be themselves. And that is exactly what happened in Parliament. When I sat there in Parliament, and this is not a dig at any of the members of Parliament, because they are wonderful members of Parliament, especially from the Democratic Alliance. The problem, however, is that people get smug very quickly. They think that they more important. They think that now suddenly they've reached the pinnacle of politics, and now they have to behave in a different way. And I was always like, nah, you know, this is what got me here, even though I didn't think that I would get here. Um, and I'm just going to continue being who and what I am, because that is what got me there. To answer your question, though, I I suspected that it was, firstly, because the way that IOL butchered that article. I thought that it was intentional by opposition parties. Then um, I started thinking, well, perhaps this is internal. Perhaps it's people that wanted me gone in the DA. And to an extent, I still believe that, from information that I'm getting from people that I'm still close with inside, the party. Um, there are definitely people that had their knives out for me, but whether or not that caused the video leak. I'm not sure. I think that they saw an opportunity and they jumped on it. Um, I don't think it's more sinister than that. IOL had their agenda, and I'll be sure to fight that legal battle because I want to be vindicated from that. But I do think that a lot of people in high up positions in the DA enjoyed what happened to me, and then just the confusion of it all. Like for 3 months, I went for, well, over a 3 month period, there was this federal legal commission that looked at every single aspect. Like, I mean, I had to write a lot of information for them and put my case forward. I did that. It was a 2.5 hour meeting that we had in Cape Town. I flew up specially for that. After that meeting, or during that meeting, it actually felt like, people could hear my points that I were making, and it showed because when the Federal Legal Commission came with their findings, they said, we still find you guilty, even though I disagree with that. And I believe that if I had to take it to court, I would win because of the DA's constitution. The reason I'm not taking it to court is because why would I? Like, what is the end goal here? So the end goal is I get reinstated in a party that doesn't want me, and I don't want to be part of the party anymore. So that's why I've left that. But they found me guilty of the most random thing. Like, I can't even remember exactly what I was found guilty of. I think it was like not disclosing something that could bring the party into disrepute. Do you understand how
But you
weird that?
deleted the video, so it was
So,
gone.
so
Like,
yeah, so that was one of my arguments. My arguments were, listen, I mean, I did delete the video, but on top of that, I didn't hide it. I mean, people were aware of it. I mean, I still have emails now in which that video is being discussed by senior DA leaders.
no, but to be
Now,
fair, Ronaldo, you can't. If you delete something, right? It's gone, right? That is in your
apparently
past.
not,
It's
Joe.
no,
Apparently
but
not.
but I mean, like in terms of like before it came out, right? Before someone else did whatever they did and brought it to light. In your mind, right? If you're in a meeting with the DA and they say, "Do you have anything to disclose that could, harm the party or whatever?" You're not gonna think of that video because in your mind it's deleted, it's gone, it's disappeared. So like that's the part where like for me it's like the DA was just looking for anything to get rid of you so that they could
Definitely.
look good
Because
publicly.
the initial complaint, I mean, so the way that it works is somebody lays a complaint against you and they reference the DA's constitution, what they believe that you breached, right?
Yeah,
The initial like complaint against me did not even mention what they eventually found me guilty of. And technically you're only allowed to, like, so let's say somebody writes an email to the DA and say, we believe that Ronaldo breached this part
mm,
of the code. Then technically the Federal Legal Commission can only hold you responsible for what the complainant laid the case against.
okay,
They ended up with a completely different thing that they found me guilty of, because they didn't find me guilty of racism. They found me guilty of not disclosing. Yet in 2013, I disclosed the video because there's email evidence of it, back
yeah,
and forth. It went as high as the CEO of the DA. So the CEO of the DA knew about the existence of the video, and so
it's
then, anyway, the point that I was making is the Federal Legal Commission then said, we find him guilty, but we believe that he should remain as a member of parliament because he has shown remorse. The video is 14 years old, and that was before he joined the DA, and he was part of the young leadership program. He grew as an individual. He has shown that he's a good counselor. He did really well in the interviews, and that is why he ranked high enough to go to parliament. And then ultimately they said the options are that he should remain, but he should now be very limited to what he's allowed to post on YouTube. And in their mind, they wanted me to be completely off social media, which I don't even know I would have accepted, because how do you in today's age exist as a politician when you don't even have social media
yeah.
to let's say, to talk about DA successes or to speak about the questions that you asked in Parliament, you know. Um, so I didn't really know what they expected, but they eventually found me not, or they found me guilty, but said I should remain as a member of Parliament. Now, here's the thing: that was 3 months by people that have a background in law. So those were the experts. These are the people that the DA decided should investigate me to come to a conclusion. They came to a conclusion, and then in a 1 day sitting by the federal executive, they said, no, we don't agree with that. We're going to completely overturn it, and he should be terminated immediately. And then I found out through the media that my membership was terminated. And then after I heard it, then 5 minutes later, an email popped in. It was the shortest email ever. Like, it was just find attached. And I opened the attachment. There was a DA letterhead, and it says, your membership is hereby terminated with immediate effect. Regards, Helen Ziller. And that was it. That was it. That
Wow.
was like the thank you for 12 years of service.
Wow. Okay, this leads me to my next question. Um,
Sorry.
no, it's too.
Carter's going crazy.
It's all right. Carter can do a solo if he wants.
Yeah. Give me change.
It's kind of a two-part question. Sort of. I'll just ask. So you obviously, and rightfully so, have, I wouldn't say anger, but like, you're not as keen on the DA anymore. And in your recent videos, you've also expressed how the DA is no longer the DA that you used to know, blah, blah, blah. That's all good and well. Question though, when you were part of the DA, okay, and this is just me trying to get some honesty out of you. Um, a lot of the times I used to tell you, Ronaldo, stop towing the government line, and you would be very pissed off with me. So now I want to know, Ronaldo, were you towing the government line when you were part of the DA?
No, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Sorry, you're not going to get the. So the thing with me is, I bumped a lot of heads with the federal executive, and I don't want to really give the person's name. I don't want to give
Don't.
their title away
No,
because no,
don't.
I'm just talking. I wanted to say something, but then everybody would know who I'm talking about. So what I want to say is that there were a lot of people that wanted to see me go because they are very, very woke, and they weren't happy with the way in which I was, let's say, talking about Israel and Palestine. They weren't happy with my take on firearms and, abortions, and very strong, obviously, wedge issues, Um, and I think that if, I think that, let's say, this incident happened now, I think that the DA would just brush it aside and make no issue out of it. The reason that it happened when it happened was strategic. I believe that this was planted by either the media because they held on to that video for a while. Because how convenient is it that 2 days after I'm sworn in, you
Mm.
discover like this massive video that is going to end my career? Like, I mean, I think somebody held on to that for quite a while. Whether it was somebody inside the DA, I don't think so, but who knows? I don't know how many people hated me in the DA because I didn't pay them any attention. I was just doing my own thing. Um, but what eventually transpired was just that, yeah, I think that the federal executive of the Democratic Alliance is captured. And what I say when what I mean by that is, I think that Helen and John isn't in charge of the federal executive anymore. I think that there's this woke movement within the DA, and strategically through various different. Because remember, the federal executive is your provincial leaders, and then it is people that went through the DA's Congress and were elected into those positions. Now, I think that a lot of people eventually ended up in the federal executive, and they clearly have a very different goal and sort of, what is it, lane that they want the DA to take. And I mean, I think you can see that with what is happening in the GNU.
Mm.
And this is what is very shocking to me is that, and I know I sound like a bitter ex, and I really don't. I'm not saying it. I think a lot of people can see it. The DA does not seem to be the same party than it was a year ago.
No, no, absolutely not.
John Steenhuisen looks like the shadow of the man he used to be. Helen suddenly is like, she's still doing a thing, but it's just like the spark isn't there.
Mm.
Now, whether it is them internally giving up and they just putting on a brave face, for the outside world, I don't know. But I could definitely sense a shift in the DA. And the fact that they allowed the ANC to walk all over them with the Bella Act, the NHI Act, the Expropriation Act, and then the budget vote tells me we're dealing with a different party here. And then the last thing that I'll say is, um, well, there was a bigger question that you asked earlier that I wanted to get back to.
Mm. Yeah,
My
well, you.
conclusion is that the DA's federal executive is obviously, there's something going on there, and I can't tell you exactly why. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. I believe that the big businesses, because there's two things that happened that made me go, wait a second, this is like corresponding with one another. So remember, the thing with me happened when the GNU negotiations were taking place. So I think that I was a convenient scapegoat to just get rid of in order to make sure that the GNU stayed on track. The question is, who gave that instruction? Now, if you look at how quickly the DA shifted from, we not going to stay in the GNU, we will not allow, if they go outside the GNU in order to get support or to pass this budget, we will leave. And then remember that businesses that sent both the ANC and the DA letters, it was
Yeah.
like CEOs. Now, I've got a quick question. Have you seen the letter?
No.
Why not?
I.
Why has the business chamber or the CEOs, why haven't they made that letter public? And I can tell you because I know. The
Okay.
reason is because they threatened to stop donating money to the DA and to the ANC if they don't remain or figure this mess out with the GNU. Now, with that happening, and then the DA literally doing a 90-degree and the ANC doing a 90-degree, that tells me that maybe something similar happened to me, where maybe the people that donated to the DA went like, listen, you don't need this cock in your life. We need to save the country. Stop focusing on Ronaldo. Just get rid of him. Just replace him. And let's focus on the important thing here, which is the GNU. And listen, I mean, it's cock that it had to be me. But yeah, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. If they had to come to me and say, Ronaldo, this is how it is. If they came to me and said, Ronaldo, listen, you've put us in a very, very difficult position. Would you mind stepping down as a member of parliament because of this, and deal with it? And then if we find you innocent and if we do this, then eventually you can come back, whether it is in 2.5 years or if it's in the next term. I would have gone like, guys, I completely understand it. We need to save the country first. We need to look after the country. But what is a very bitter pill to swallow is that the DA did not follow its own constitution,
Mm.
which means that they don't respect the constitution. Because if they adhere to the constitution, then I would still be in parliament right now.
And do you think, like, on that, do you here's another follow-up question to that. So you said, okay, you would consider staying, had they worded it that way or offered you that. But had you, let's say it went down that route, let's say it went that way,
Mm.
and you're seeing now the DA still doing the whole letting the Bella through, letting NHI through, would you have still stayed with the DA? Do you think you could have sacrificed?
I know it's so easy to say after the fact because I'm not in that position, but I think everybody that knows me on a personal level know that I'm a very principled individual,
Mm.
and I would have left. I would have stepped down. So whether it would have been saying I I forfeit my seat as a member of parliament, send me back as a councillor, because the one thing I've learned is there's a big difference between the cohesiveness and the love on a municipal level, for councillors, specifically in the DA, because I have still, to this day, the utmost of respect for the councillors in Nelson Mandela Bay and across South Africa for the DA, because I know that they are hardworking and they're doing it for a lot less pay than what they would earn if they were in the private sector.
Mm.
So I've got a lot of time and respect for DA councillors, and I just think it's a different vibe than on a national level. Because on a national level, it's like they smell each other's farts and they go, nice. So so I would have, out of principle, I don't know if I would have like resigned from the party. I can't tell you whether I would have
Yeah.
done that, but I would have stepped down as a member of parliament. I would have done that, and I can put my hand on a Bible. That's what I would have done if I was still in parliament. But I think you misunderstood me though, because what I said earlier was I said that if they approached me and said I needed to step down
Yeah.
for the good of the GNU, I would have done it
Yeah.
if they asked me. But instead, what they did is they had this circus
Mm.
of a disciplinary hearing, and yeah, I think everybody knows. I think
Yeah.
everybody can see that it was a bunch of bullshit. I haven't made all of those documents available because it's like flogging a dead horse. I mean, if somebody emails me and they say, "Hey, can I come and look at it?" I'll be like, "Sure, you can read all this stuff and see it." But I don't. It's weird because I still love a lot of people in the DA, like fellow counselors and lifelong friends on the administrative staff that I've made. So it is very difficult for me to want to belittle and insult the DA because I know it affects them in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form. But what I can tell you is that my biggest advice, if there's anybody in the DA that still listens to what I have to say, get rid of that federal executive, because that federal executive is going to end up causing the DA and the ANC to become one party. And I'm not speaking about Helen and John. I'm speaking about this random movement. And I don't know who and what it is. I've got my suspicions. Um, but oh, by the way, they said that it was a unanimous decision. I know that's bullshit. They won. When I say they won, the people that wanted me gone won by one vote. They said it was unanimous. No, they won by one vote.
And
I don't know
do you
why
think
they.
that one vote is the person that you're alluding to now that's driving?
Um, I don't know, but I'm assuming that. Well, look, I think this person influenced all of them that decided to vote against, like keeping me
Mm.
and ignoring the Federal Legal Commission. I don't, and I'm not sure. I don't believe that that has ever happened. I speak under correction, but I don't believe there's ever been an instance where the Federal Legal Commission made a recommendation and then the federal executive overturned it.
Mm.
I don't think that there's ever been a situation like that. I'm sure Helen Ziller will be quick on tomorrow to say, Ronaldo, there has been. But I sat on the federal executive as an additional member. So I know of like at least 3 years worth of like these cases that came before us, and not once did they decide to go against what the FLC decided, the Federal Legal Commission. So
Do you still talk to Helen?
not at all. Not at all. The last time we spoke were, well, besides the email correspondence, because I asked them for, like when the federal executive sat to decide on my fate. I think that I should have a right to know what was being discussed because I'm the one being discussed, and it was just flat out ignored. They
Oh.
refused to share the minutes of the meeting with me, which I don't even know if that's legal, but they didn't share it with me. And I asked and I said, but why can you not share how you decided to get to the point of your outcome, by not letting me know what your thought processes were. And they just said, we don't need to give it to you. And I was like, okay. So on email, that was the last time I spoke to Helen. And then the last time I spoke to Helen on WhatsApp was literally when I sent the message to her to say the video does exist, but it's a lot longer. She hasn't communicated after that. She didn't communicate with me.
Huh, interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah, it. Look, what happened to you was horrible. I think a lot of people see past the BS, and
Thanks.
I just, and I just want to remind people that if they want to assist you, for those that are watching right now, uh, Ronaldo's bank details are in the description. So if you want to donate to his legal costs to fight, especially the mainstream media, like I cannot wait until you bring them down. That would be, please assist Ronaldo with that link, or details are in the description. Um, I want to move on quickly to, because we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to chat to you about South Africa now. Okay, and how your life is now. So you've now gone through this ordeal. You've survived. You've come on top. I think you hit 150,000 subscribers, so your channel is doing phenomenally well. I know that when you and I first spoke, when this all happened to you, you're like, I'm just gonna dive into YouTube, and clearly it's doing well. I loved your stream with the budget speech. I thought it was so entertaining, and like you made that like so much fun. The point I'm getting to is life after what happened, but also where do you think South Africa is going to be in even 2 to 3 years? Because to me, I think there's an expiry date for the GNU. That's just my personal opinion. I know people get upset when I say that because I want the DA to leave for reasons that we just spoke of. And then people are always like, yeah, but EFF and MK might come in. And yeah, they might. But there's also Trump rearing his head around the corner. So that is not going to end up well for that. Like you said, businesses now also on ANC and DA's neck. But I think, and people can hate me all they want with this. My personal opinion, I think ANC has. I think the ANC and South Africa need to hit rock bottom before things get better. We haven't hit rock bottom yet, and I know it's a scary thing to say, but I think that when that happens, finally the ANC can be just dismantled, kicked out, and something else can replace it. I could be wrong, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the GNU expiry is going to happen pretty soon. Now it's the budget thing, and they might find each other and then soon kumbaya for 2 months, and then something will happen again, and they'll be fighting. Um, the problem that a lot of people have is that they don't seem to understand what will happen if the DA leaves. So the MK party will not form part of the coalition or the GNU. The reason for that is because the ANC knows that if they allow MK to join, they are done. Because imagine giving ministerial positions to the MK and then their ministers deliver just a little bit better than the ANC. If they do that, then they gifting the MK party their votes. Because let's be real, the current GNU consists of 10 parties, and I would say the vast majority of those parties aren't a direct threat for the ANC and their voter base. That is why the two parties that are the biggest threat for the ANC's voter base is outside of the GNU. Now, the EFF might come into the GNU if the DA decides to leave, but you must also understand that the EFF is done, and that is why the ANC will allow them in, because they realize that the big threat here is MK. That is the big threat. So people have that fear, and I can tell you that there's not a snowball's chance in hell that the MK will join the GNU. Now, what about the EFF? Well, I mean, the EFF is incompetent, and when they get the ministerial positions, it'll pretty much be similar to what the MMC positions are like in municipalities. Because all across South Africa, there are EFF individuals that are MMCs. members of the mayoral committee that is in charge of the budget, that's in charge of spending the money. So they're not really going to do, a lot of damage more than what the ANC have. I mean, after all, they are just an extension of the ANC. So they might be more radical, but in a ministerial position, like look at Gayton McKenzie, perfect example. Gayton McKenzie was very radical before he became a minister. Remember, he was on the border there saying that we are going to shoot these people. Or I don't know if he said shoot, so let me just correct it. But he said we will deal with,
Yeah.
the individuals that crosses the border. Look at him now. The guy looks like a statesman. He's like, yes, no, thank you. We will bring the Formula One championship to South Africa,
Yeah.
so that tends to happen. So you're not going to get a EFF minister, suddenly at a random meeting go kill the Boer, or anything like that. Um, the other thing, of course, is people go, oh, but what about the policies that they'll push through? Okay, well,
Already
let's
pushed through.
let's have a recap. Bella, that pretty much wants to kill Afrikaans off and want to remove all of the governing body's strength to make decisions on their own. A perfect example of that is this. In the Eastern Cape, schools aren't allowed anymore to apply for a temporary liquor license to have an event on their sports fields, or have a music festival or whatever on their sporting fields during the holidays when there are no students on the school premises, because the this is because of Bella. This is because the provincial government decided that they're not allowed to do it, and nobody else can now say anything. It is the law. So that is the Bella Act. NHI, well, everybody knows that they're coming for your medical aid or your private medical or private hospitals, and it's just going to be a disaster. Then you've got the Expropriation Act. I don't need to say a lot about that. So all of these things have passed under the current GNU, which includes the Democratic Alliance, the Freedom Front Plus, and the all the parties that you would want in the GNU. So I mean, what is there that could possibly be worse than that at the moment? There's nothing. All the bad things have been passed with the DA in the driving seat with the ANC.
Yep. And I think that's what pisses off a lot of voters. Like, I think the DA likes to pretend like, oh no, we're doing fine. We have I think there was a poll recently that said that the DA's got more support, which is interesting. But then that gave me like, because I thought like, how does the DA have more support when in my comment section when I make a video about the DA or the stuff that DA's have doing, a lot I'm seeing it now in the live chats. A lot of people are like, oh, the DA is spineless. The DA is this woke DA. Da 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 da. There's a lot of hate towards the DA, but somehow polls say, and I know polls are a snapshot in time.
It's 1,000. I mean,
Yeah,
come
but
really.
let's entertain the idea that like they have increased a little bit in support. It made me think, okay, well, how would they? Let's think about it. How would they increase in support? They didn't do much with the Bella Bill. They didn't do much with the Expropriation Act. They didn't do much with the NHI. Is it possible that maybe black voters are now jumping onto the DA because the DA isn't doing that big of a push against it anymore, instead trying to look like they're,
More communist.
yeah. And I mean, it's possible. It's not improbable because the DA always wants more votes. Every party wants more votes, right? Or more voter base. So it's interesting. And it just goes to that, what I see in the comment section quite a bit is ANC light. The DA is ANC light. It's just proving that what once was a conspiracy theory, which I think is no longer the case. I think the DA has, like you've alluded to earlier in the conversation, someone high up is pulling the strings and is either trying to merge the ANC and DA together. But this is also something that Martin van Staden from Free Market Foundation, him and I also chatted about on this channel. We
Mm.
speculated that either the DA and the ANC are going to just come to a point where they just can't agree and they're going to leave the GNU, or the DA is going to leave the GNU, or the ANC will eat the DA, which I think is happening in some cases
Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't know.
to a
I
certain
can only,
extent.
So I can only speak from when I was still involved in the DA, and that, well, if you asked me a year ago, I would say there's not a snowball's chance in hell that that would happen. However, the DA has also drastically changed. But here's the thing: I think that it's actually more. How can I explain this? I had Helen on my show a couple of times, and
Yeah.
I always asked her the same question because this is my way of testing, whether or not it is principle or if there's something else at play.
Okay.
The question I always used to ask any senior politician I've got a lot of respect for is, do do you govern at all costs, or if your values and principles mean that you will always be in the opposition benches, would you then remain in the opposition benches, or would you adjust your values and principles to govern? And Helen has always come out and said your values and principles is the most important thing, and if that means that you never govern, at least then you can be an effective opposition and lead with your values and principles. That has changed, in my opinion. The DA, by allowing the Bella Act, allowing NHI, allowing expropriation, all of that stuff, I mean, it is to keep themselves in government. And I'm not surprised that they probably appeal to broader voters out there, or more dynamic, communists, because they are passing communist legislation. So the question is, does the heart and soul of the DA and their values and principles remain, or does it now shift and change? Um, because the only way that you can realistically in South Africa govern is if you, I mean, look at the three big parties, the EFF, MK, besides the DA, of course, is the MK, EFF, and the ANC, and they all believe in communism and socialism in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And together they have 65% of the vote, which means that they will, I mean, and this hasn't really changed over the last 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
It's always been 63, 65, 67%. It's always been in that bracket. Now, whether the DA is convinced sudden, what did they were polling at 30%,
Yeah.
which is a jump from, that's a jump, it's a 9
26 or
percentage
something.
point jump
Yeah.
in less than a year. And I mean, those votes weren't taken away from the Freedom Front. They weren't taken away from ACDP or whatever party that's got liberal values. No, it was taken away. If you have to believe the poll, it was taken away from the ANC, potentially MK. But then you also have to ask yourself, do you really want those radical type of voters? I mean, is that the
Exactly.
voter base that you want? So be careful what you wish for. Okay, great. You've got more votes, but now you have to deliver on what the voters want.
Yeah.
And the one thing the DA hasn't really done well, in my opinion, is they haven't delivered on their promises. Their election promises were, we will stop Bella, we will stop NHI, we will stop expropriation. They didn't stop shit.
Rescue South Africa. That was,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big thing.
Still
Rescue
remember
South
that
Africa.
annoying song, Rescue South
And
Africa.
don't forget about the burning flag. That was a huge thing, right? Like the media was like, "Oh my God,
Here's
they
my
burnt the
point,
South
right?
African flag."
No, listen to me now. Hear me out, right? So this was actually my argument, one of the many arguments in my defense when I was taken.
Yeah.
Um, I said, "All right, so you wanting to get rid of me because I've brought the party's name into disrepute, right? Okay.
I
Quick
see where you're
question.
going.
Do you remember a couple of months ago when you were burning a flag and every single mainstream media outlet in South Africa called the DA treasonous, right? So my question is, everybody that shared that video or thought of that video in the leadership positions, should the same then not apply to all of them for producing that video and bringing the party into disrepute? And here's another thing. Let me say this. I don't know if I've said this publicly. Ian Cameron, I love you. You know it. We spoke often, and I've got a lot of time for Ian Cameron. But let me just show the double standards of what went down. remember, it was Renaldo Gouws. I trended for a week.
Yeah.
2 days into that trend, Ian Cameron also started trending. Remember that, for blackface.
Mm.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that I was kicked out of the party for was for not disclosing
Mm.
something that might bring the party into disrepute.
Mm.
Did Ian Cameron disclose the blackface video with the DA? And
Fair
if he
question.
didn't, then should the outcome not have been the same for Ian Cameron than it was for me? And listen, I don't want Ian Cameron gone. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
He's a legend. I love him. He's one of
We
the
love you,
few
Ian. We love you.
he's one of the few people that I still love and respect in the DA. But what I'm saying is, if you just had to go on that, besides, the other thing is also, like, I had 12 years on Ian Cameron being with the party, if you know what I mean. So I've had a history with the party. So here's Exhibit A, here's Exhibit B, and there's two different outcomes.
Mm.
So, but yeah.
No, and it's a fair point, but I think there was when that happened to you, I think there was a clear media, like,
Yeah.
strategic thing that was happening, because it was you, and then it was Ramon, and then it was Ian. Like, they were just trying to go after people that they didn't like, that they thought were right wing, and you were an
So I
easier
remember,
target.
yeah, it was me. Well, actually, it was John first. It was John. It's always
Yeah,
been
but they
Helen.
always hate John, though.
Yeah,
They
okay, so
always
let's
hate
be
John.
real. So
Yeah.
it was Helen, it was John, then it was me, then it was Ian Cameron, then it was Annelie Lotrit, and then there were what's his name? I can't remember his name now. Dean McPherson.
Oh yeah.
Dean McPherson was another, and then there was somebody else. So it was like
Well,
six
there's been
people.
a few. JP recently, JP Smith,
Yeah. JP
and
also.
and again Ramon Cabanach. So and what's interesting to me. Okay, fine. He doesn't necessarily work for the DA, but neither does, I don't think Ramon either works directly with the DA, which is the most interesting part about this whole thing, about the way the media is acting. But Sichle, not a secret that he's also now under the agriculture sector. Didn't really hear much of an uproar, and yet he's a YouTuber. He was a YouTuber. I think,
And he has used the K word a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken.
I wouldn't know.
No, I don't know.
But remember,
But I mean,
Ronaldo,
then again, I mean, he's
black people
black,
can't
like
be
he's allowed
racist.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
remember, that's fine. But again, the double standards, right? So I'm not saying, like, again, we love Sikhe. I don't want any hate towards him. Really, I don't.
No, of
I'm just
course not.
saying, in terms of principle and double standards, like, you want to go after Ronaldo, you want to go after Ramon, but Sikhe, like, you didn't, like, where's it? It's horrible that I'm saying this,
I
but
know
where's the
exactly. I
consistency?
can tell you the reason for that. So, I mean, look, firstly, Seathle is an awesome guy, and anything that the media would have thrown at him was absolute bullshit, right?
Yeah. No,
The
of course.
reason the media didn't go after him is because he's a black guy. That's why.
Obviously. But then again, it's that double standard, right? So,
Yeah.
white guy, you, Ronaldo, let's go after him. Ramon Cabanach, I don't think they know if he's white or what he is, but Pakistani,
I don't
whatever.
think he knows. I don't think.
French guy, French, right? Let's go
Apparently.
after him. And listen, I'll be honest. I don't think I've said this publicly either, but Ronaldo, and a lot of people that have been following me for a while on this channel know that I was part of the referendum party, running in the last election, and I have since left, because, don't take this personally, but after what I saw, what they did to you, I was like, I'm out. I'm
Well,
out.
I
I
don't.
can.
I love being an example for people to make their life choices from. Nothing like that. Now, I remember we had a conversation, and I
Yeah,
told you. I actually told you, get out. I
yeah.
think that was, yeah. I vividly remember that conversation. Um, I don't know
Yeah.
if you want me to disclose more of it, but I remember that we had that conversation, and I just said, if you want a friend in politics, get a dog. I say that
Yeah.
though, and I mean I've built like great friendships with great individuals, but unfortunately, the reason that politics is so toxic is because there are so much money at stake for people that would
Yeah.
never ever be able to earn that type of money
Yeah.
with their skill set. And what I mean by that is, if you look at like a counselor in a city gets 50,000 rand a month, right? They get out 40, maybe 39,000 rand in their pocket. Now, imagine if you didn't finish like school. Imagine you don't really have any skills, but
Yeah.
you can rile up a crowd and you can just say the right things to get people
Charismatic. Yeah.
going. So that is the skill set that you bring, and now you're getting 40,000 rand for that.
Yeah.
And then here's the funny part. I thought that when I would go, so let me give you an example. I always judged whether or not somebody was really in it based on whether they fell asleep in the meetings, and also how they treated the administrative staff, the people that answer to them as politicians. And within the ANC, they were just like, most of them didn't regard anybody, they're obsessed with the titles.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Parliament, I also looked at the same thing within the ANC, and unfortunately, I didn't see like a higher caliber of politician. I just saw people that were committed to the ANC longer, and this was like their reward. Their reward was like, thank you for being
Mm.
with the ANC and keeping our secrets. And here you go.
Yeah.
I remember vividly the administrative staff in Parliament. They loved me, and I'm not being funny about it. They literally said like, "Thank you for asking," or "Thank you for this," or "Thank you for caring enough to say something like this." And they didn't get they get treated like shit
Yeah.
by most politicians. And the parliamentary staff, they are legends. They literally have been there longer than a lot of those politicians.
Yeah. I want to just address quickly the comment section because I saw someone's like, "Oh, read the comments, Joe." Listen, I am keeping an eye on the comments. We are going to go through some of the questions and some of the super chats that have come through. Let me do that now quickly, at least the super chats, because Ronaldo understands how important super chats are. We got
Yeah.
a
Wait.
super chat from Matthew Dixon, 14 Rand. Thank you so much for the super chat, or Sasa chat as we call it on this channel.
Mhm.
Hey, Timo, Joe Rogan, and hey, Ronaldo.
Hey.
Hello, Matthew, a resident troll. Thank you so much. Podcast saying 35 Rand super chat or Sessa chat. Would you ever consider working with the FF Plus, or are you done with politics? Not a bad question.
Um, so at the moment, I consider myself retired. Um,
Fair, fair, very fair, very fair.
I love politics. I love South Africa. Is there, a week is a long time in politics.
Mm,
And I talk politics every day on my YouTube channel. So if look, there are very few political parties that I think that would be able to align with my viewpoint. Like the DA was one. They've kind of changed. We'll see though what their policies and things do moving forward.
referendum
But
party.
yeah, I would say that there's two political parties at the moment that I'm really enjoying. One more than the other. I'm really enjoying the Freedom Front Plus, and the
Mm,
reason for that is Corne Mulder is doing great. I've listened to what Corne has to say, and it's weird because the latest interview that he had on a mainstream media outlet, it was almost like I heard myself or one of my videos, if that makes sense. So there's that. The other one is the Patriotic Alliance with Gayton McKenzie. But the reason that I'm very if Gayton had to call me and say, Ronaldo, I would love for you to just come to Parliament and be a member of Parliament,
Which you
I'll be
would.
very wary because it's it to me, it's like the PA is run like the EFF, not necessarily an ideology, but that it's built around one person's personality.
Mm,
So if you suddenly fall out of favor with Gayton McKenzie, and or you said something that he took up the wrong way, before you know it, you'll just be removed and you'll be out of parliament, you know? So for that reason, like if Gayton gets it right to put the PA in a position where it's its own entity and it will be able to survive without him, then things will change. But the front runner for me definitely is the Freedom Front Plus, specifically under Corne Mulder. If it was still Pieter Groenewald, I don't have an issue with Peter. I think that he did a good job, but I think that he was kind of comfortable in his position, and
yeah.
as long as the party just managed to provide that many seats, then everything will be fine. I think Corne has got he's got motivation. He wants to grow it, and I
Mm,
can get on board with that, but I'm really enjoying what I'm doing at the moment. My wife might not. I think I'm causing a lot of annoyance for her, but but yeah. Look, I also can't sit still for too long. I can already feel that I'm getting this itch, but like there's something. Even though I'm making the YouTube content, even though I'm doing the stuff that I'm doing, I just feel that I've got more to offer.
mm.
But whether that's in politics or whether that is like going full on with more business ventures or other things, time will tell. Time will tell. But at the moment, I've taken an extended holiday. I think we're now at 6 months. Because for 12 years I didn't have any holidays or any time off. So
Yeah.
now what I'm doing is I'm doing this. I'm doing YouTube. I'm enjoying life. I'm doing more things with my wife and my parents and her parent or her mom. So I'm having fun at the moment. I'm just getting time where I wake up in the morning and it's not in cold sweat and looking at my phone and seeing 50 WhatsApps and 3 missed calls that I've missed. So I'm enjoying life at the moment.
And rightfully so, man. I remember like when you and I met, you'd always show me your phone and there'd be like 100 WhatsApps and you're like, it just doesn't stop, dude. It doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't.
Um, so, dude, take all the time you need. Going back to some of the Sasa chats, we got 35 Rand from Bo Smith. Thanks, gents. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. Debbie Murray with thanks, gents. Like Bo said, keep up the good work with 140 Rand Sasa chats. Sasa chat, thank you so much, Debbie and Bo. And then we had a Sasa chat from Ronaldo, 140 Rand. Wow. Thank you so much, Ronaldo.
Oh, what did he
This,
say? This
this,
Ronaldo Gouws guy is an absolute legend.
yeah,
Wow. Thanks,
very
Ronaldo.
nice.
That's a very kind compliment.
And but podcast giving another 14 Rand Sasa chat saying, why did Windy not want to hold the referendum? I don't know if you have any insight on that, but I doubt it because you focus
Oh,
mainly on,
Alan
and
Wendy.
yeah. Um, I don't think I think I know what your answer is, but well, Alan Windy is against Cape Independence. Simple. He's
Well, Alan
against it.
Wendy's very obsessed with the UN sustainable goals, and so is the DA to an extent. But I think that the DA is very risk averse of anything that might come across as center right or conservative,
Mm.
which is it's really weird because there's a saying: if you're not liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart. If you're not conservative when you're older, you don't have a brain.
Yep.
And I would think that the same thing would happen with the DA. Like we have to understand that the world, like we've got the Overton window that
Yes.
shifts. And with that, you sometimes are perceived more conservative than what you are liberal. But at the end of the day, your policies are your policies. And with the Overton window shifting, the DA would naturally look more conservative. And when it's conservative, they would look more liberal because of the Overton window. And I just think that the DA is too scared to come across as conservative, and that is why they probably did not want to entertain that, because that would be a very negative media publicity stunt for them. And unfortunately, I've also learned that the DA is very much they give the media way too much credit. They
Oh, they
give
do.
the media way too much attention.
It's horrible.
And the thing is, I mean, that is also the other thing that really, really hurt me, um, is the fact that I defended the DA because it was the right thing to do and because I believed in the DA's vision and mission and their principles and their values. And I did that for 12 years. When Helen made the statements about not all colonialism is bad. I mean, if you look at what she said, I mean, if you just look at it on a fact-based basis, I was one of the few people in the party that vocally defended her and said, no, like what she said, there's nothing wrong with it. The media overreacted. And there are many examples of this. But eventually, after 12 years of doing that, the one time I needed the DA to have my back,
Yeah,
they threw me under the bus.
yeah.
And it's not me like killing somebody and asking the DA to hide the body. It was just to help me with providing the context of what was being said and how the media manipulated the video that I made. And they just did not. They did not have my back. Not at all. And that
And
is very disappointing.
and I think like for a lot of people, like yeah, I think for me, right? I'm gonna be honest. Like you and I often used to, when you were working for the DA, you just be
Hmm.
like, "Hey, Joe, come over to our side." Like, "Come on, vote for the DA," and we always had a bit of fun with that and banter. Um, but for me, man, I'm not. I'm gonna be completely honest. I did, and I do like the DA in the Western Cape.
Hmm.
I do believe that there is a difference between the Western Cape DA and the national now DA. Okay,
Hmm.
that's number one. Number two, I haven't, or if I, well, in the last election, I didn't vote for them, obviously,
Hmm.
but in the previous elections, I did. Um, so I did support them. I find it very difficult now to support them, and it's been ever since lockdown when John was defending that whole Phoenix thing
Hmm.
and he gave this awesome rebuttal to a journalist. SABC always trying to look for the race angle, and he
Hmm.
gave an awesome rebuttal to that journalist, and he was applauded for it. But then the next day, they took down the posters in Phoenix, and it just took away everything that John had said, and it just showed me that there is no spine in the DA. And ever since then, when I've had a critical eye towards the DA, I've seen it time and time and time again. And when it happened to you, when it happened to Ronaldo, and it just keeps on happening even now, Bella Act, all this stuff, it just the DA is looking weaker and weaker and weaker, and they don't have a spine, and they're not actually listening to the people who actually put them in power, who actually put them in the GNU, well, who gave them enough voter power so that they could be in the GNU. They're no longer listening to those people. I don't know who they're listening to, but it's definitely not the voter base. And
I can tell
as
you who they're
much
listening to because that
business,
was okay. So
probably.
that's not a conspiracy. I'm not going to tell you that it's this man behind the curtain. The problem is that the DA is very much obsessed with the administrative staff. The people in the air conditioned rooms that think out strategies, that think up the marketing campaigns. And unfortunately, this has always been the Achilles heel of the DA because it's all good and well to come up with a strategy in an air conditioned room, with a person that had a private education that think that they know what is best for South Africa. And you could see it in our policy documents, or our policy documents, their policy documents. It's a bad habit that I
You're
need to.
still with the DA.
Sorry. Um, but what the point that I'm making is that it's people in air conditioned rooms that are formulating these policies. And listen, I know that I'm speaking for a lot of agitated and annoyed ward councillors and PR councillors. The hoops that councillors have to jump through within the DA with reporting on what they need to do and to show that they are doing work is absurd. I believe there are now 3 different apps or websites that they have to log the stuff that they do. And they spend more time filling these forms out than actually being in their communities helping the residents. And that is very frustrating for them. And this is another thing that has been developed by somebody in an air conditioned room. So the problem is that these strategies and formulating, like Ryan Coetzee is an example. Ryan Coetzee is still like, even after all the failures he's had, he still has the DA's ear. And my question is, how is that possible? He's had so many situations where he helped various political entities, and then it failed spectacularly. But then he just runs back to the DA, and they're like, "Oh, we missed you so much. We know this time you're going to make it a better." And then, if you think about it, the election result for 2024, the DA received less votes. They lost votes, but somehow the people are proclaiming it to be a victory. I don't understand how that's possible. I really don't. But to answer your question, whether or not those people in the air conditioned rooms are getting their instructions from higher up, it's possible. But what I can tell you is the DA, unfortunately, listens too much to these staff members rather than the actual politicians that know what is going on the ground level.
And they listen too much to mainstream media. Like, they care too much about what mainstream media is telling them, this woke mainstream media. And it's like mind-boggling to me, because I have it right here on my bookshelf, Helen Zilla's book, Go Woke, Go Broke. And yet the irony, I don't.
I have a signed copy, Joe.
Okay,
I
well,
have a signed
excuse
copy. Like,
me
no,
that
no,
I'm
no. But
not
what I'm
so
saying is,
close.
no. But do you know how hypocritically insane that is? Where in a book you say, we need to focus less on what the media has to say. We need to prevent the media from dictating who and what the policies of this nation should be, and this woke mind virus that's creeped in. That media isn't the same than what it was. It's amazing how you just completely ignore all of that stuff, and then I would say I was a DA diehard, like
Oh
under
yeah.
Helen, like and even John in when he took over from Musi. I firmly believed in John. Like, John is a lacquer guy. He's an awesome guy, but I think that you could also see he's tired. He knows that he's on his way out. They don't want him in the party. But under Helen and John, when they kind of built that team, I was like, let's go, baby. Like, this is the renaissance of the DA. This is gonna be like Tony Leon's DA. We're going balls to the wall, and we're gonna like liberate South Africa with liberalism. And then just like that, gone. Cheers. Thank you. Fuck off. Bye. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It I don't know. Some people will say, they got into the GNU, they got their fat paycheck, and now they're comfortable, and they're just kind of trying to keep in there for as much as
I don't.
possible.
So, to the defense of the DA, I don't think it's that. Like, I mean, you have to understand, like, if you look at John's retirement, or his pension, he's got more than enough money to live comfortably. And
Mm.
it's the same with most other ministers. I mean, they've earned enough money. If you serve one full term as a member of parliament, your pension is about 1.5, 1.6 million rand. And there's a lot of members of parliament that have served 2 or more terms. So they've got at least 3 or 4 bar. And then, the benefits that you still get after that when you leave.
Mm.
So I don't think it's necessarily about the money. It might be about the title and the ego. Um, but I just think that it's like the DA doesn't really know what to do,
Mm.
because John is both the leader of the DA and he's the Minister of Agriculture. Both jobs in their own right will take up most of your day as one job. And now he's doing both of those jobs. And I think that is why the DA at the moment just doesn't have direction. Is because Helen is busy fighting for her life in the federal executive, and John is kind of checked out because he knows that he's not going to survive the next electoral conference that takes place. So yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, but I don't think it's like as easy as it's just the power and the position, like in the money. I think it's more than that.
Who do you think would take over John's position?
Um, Look, it's either going to be Helen's blue-eyed boy, Celia Brink. I don't know if he's
Ah,
got blue eyes. So I think there's three candidates here. I think that it's either going to, Alan Windy is like he's not
please not,
palatable
Alan.
for the
Please
entire
not.
country for like there's even like outside of the Western Cape, Alan Windy is not really much liked within the DA. you know.
Okay.
Um, so I think it's between Papas. I think it is
Papas could be a good one.
yeah, but have you also noticed how suddenly, like, you remember how before the election Papas was everywhere,
Mm,
and now nobody is talking about Papas?
that's true.
I'm assuming he's had a similar conversation that was given to me, which was like, know your place. You're
Okay.
never bigger than the party.
Uh,
Um,
but I
and
mean,
then
he wasn't that bad. It's not like he was running a YouTube channel and saying like horrible things. He was doing his job from what it looked like, and he just maybe
apparently, yeah, like,
okay.
but I mean, remember the YouTube channel was also like people in the live stream, like in my live stream, knew that I was DA. They knew that I would
Yeah.
promote the DA, so it wasn't like I was trying to hoodwink them into voting for the DA.
No,
So
you're
in
very
a
open
way,
about it.
I mean, I know that I reached more people through my YouTube channel than most people in the DA through their own means. So if anything, it was a net positive for the DA,
Yeah.
but they didn't see it that way. But to answer your question, so it's either Celia Brink, it's either Christopher Papas, or it is the person that I probably think is the favorite. Who do you think it is?
I have no
Who,
idea, if I'm honest. At this point,
I'll
I'd
give you
probably
a hint.
say, oh, Gideon. What's Gordon Hill Lewis?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it's gonna be Jordan Lewis, and then an outsider's chance is Celia Brink. And Papas would do it if he manages to get KZN and one or two other provinces. Then if he gets like the support of the Eastern Cape and let's say um, the Free State, then he might be in with a fighting chance. But if it's Jordan Neil Lewis, then Jordan gets the Western Cape automatically, and he gets Gauteng more than likely, and he'll get the Northern Cape. So Saviwe Garuba, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of time for her. She was always only friendly with me. I remember I actually phoned her because she was my whip, the whip in Parliament. And remember after that initial video, not the K word video, the other video, I
Yeah.
phoned her and I said, Saviwe, like, I spoke to Helen and like, I'm speaking to you now. Do you think that I should go to the swearing in of the president? She said, of course, man. Ignore the journalists, man. Just don't pay them any heed. Just come and enjoy. It's a once in a lifetime experience. And I was like, okay, cool. So I've got a lot of time for her. If she runs, I don't think that she'll have the support. Um, I think unfortunately, she hasn't built up. She's not as well known as Jordan Neil Lewis
Mm.
or as Celia Brink, in my opinion. But she would. I think maybe that is exactly what the DA needs now is like a Saviwe. Um, but yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not here to help the DA anymore. So hey, I would say, I don't know, put Dean McPherson up. Yeah, he'll be a very great leader.
I think I don't want to lose Jordan. I think he's done a lot of good things for Cape Town and the Western Cape, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with
Oh,
me on
dude,
that.
can I be honest with you?
But
You can literally put a mop with jiggly eyes as the mayor of Cape Town, and it will do well. Can I tell you why? Because it is the DA managed to root out the corruption from the bottom up
Yeah.
in the municipality. And then once you have competent people that know what they need
Yes.
to do, and everybody is doing their job, and there is accountability, and if you mess up, you are held accountable, then things will run smoothly. So, I mean, look, Jordan has done some great stuff, but I think that you could have one of the most incompetent people as mayor, and the city will still function and run well. And so, but I mean, that is because of the hard work of the predecessors like Helen Zeller, etc., etc. So
Yeah. Fair enough, but I still think Jordan. Look, I followed him for a day, and like maybe he was just doing all the right things because I was there, whatever, saying all the
no,
right
that's who
things.
he is. He's a very
He
nice guy.
he's a nice guy, and I had the privilege of being part of some of the meetings, and the impression I got is he really wants to make sure that the Western Cape succeeds and doesn't fall apart and all that stuff. I do know that there are some other mayors across the Western Cape that aren't happy with Jordan for various reasons, and they have legitimate reasons to be. But the way the system works in South Africa, I think, is the reason why it's flawed. But I think that's a discussion for another day. Um, because I've got to go. It's approaching 10 o'clock. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Well, let me
I'm
say one
going.
last thing. Let me say one
Sure.
last thing. Anybody who decides to run for DA leadership needs to get their head checked, because show me, other than Helen and Tony Leon, show me a successful DA leader that's managed to be the leader of the party and made it out in a better position than what they went in. So my
Musi
advice,
Maimani.
ja, hulle moesie dit gedoen het hè. Moesie, hy is nie 'n Okay. I think Jordan should focus on becoming the premier of the Western Cape. That will give him a very good. That'll give him another 2 terms. Um, and he should leave the leadership of the party to somebody that is willing to put their reputation on the line and lose it all within 4, 5, or 6 years.
Okay, fair enough. I thought you said you were done giving advice to the DA.
No, because I no, well, I like Jordan, so I think that he deserves to get my honest
Okay.
opinion. But no, Dean McPherson, I think you need to stand for the leader. Andrew Whitfield, I think maybe you need to stand for the leader of the party. I think that you guys will do amazing jobs. Yeah.
All right, Ronaldo. I'm definitely gonna have you back on the show now that things are kind of blown over and you're in a
By
better
the way, where do I
place.
get my money? Who do I speak with to get my money for
My
being on?
my people will call your people. Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah, it was
we'll
5 rand
sort.
again, right? 5 rand.
I told you this last time. It's 1 rand per 3 hours. You haven't even reached the 3 hours. So
Okay, well, let's go. So, Joe, what is your take?
Ronaldo, it is always a pleasure and always fun having you on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, if you want to support Ronaldo in his fight against mainstream media and his court battles, please go in the link in the description and donate. You are still taking donations.
Of course.
Yeah. And Ronaldo, don't go anywhere just yet as I sign off. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Newsflash Podcast with Ronaldo Gouws. Ronaldo, just in case people don't know who you are, which I really doubt, but tell them where people can find you. Yeah.
All right, everybody. My name's Ronaldo Gouws. I run a very successful OnlyFans account. What I do is I do toes and fingers. As you can see here, this is the creepy crawly. Um, my handle is OnlyFans /creepy crawly. No, I'm joking. You can follow me on YouTube, Ronaldo Gouws. And yeah, that is where you'll find most of my content. I'd appreciate it if you can subscribe and consider becoming a member to the channel. I'm unemployed at the moment. Life is hard. I need a hand up. So your membership could change my life. Don't give 2 Rand for hope. Give 2 Rand for Ronaldo. Okay, that was a joke. That's actually bad. No, give 2 Rand for hope. Um, but in a nutshell, thank you for everybody. Because I have to say, and I'm sure Joe, you've also seen it over the last 3-4 months. There's just been an explosion on YouTube for
Yeah.
local content creators, and I think finally South Africa has reached that point of critical mass where there's enough people online to, instead of watching DSTV, Showmax, Netflix, or whatever, they tune into YouTube to get like they fix from people like you, from me, from Chris Wyatt, from other channels. And we're very appreciative. I mean, I know how hard Joe works. And please be sure to subscribe to Joe. Be sure to like his videos, share it far and wide, because the more voices we have that are giving you the alternative media and the alternative news, that builds a bigger alternative media like Joe, myself, and others. And I'm very excited for what's coming, and Joe knows what's coming. And Rob pretty much like leaked it to some extent, but it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait for this just to get bigger and bigger and make it, a place where sane, logical, rational individuals can come together and just agree and talk about what is best for South Africa. So thanks for what you also do, Joe. I mean, I'm not going to kiss your ass on here because you're not paying me anything for it. But thanks for what you do. I really do appreciate it. And believe it or not, I do watch your content. I might not always catch it live or when you premiere it, but just do me a favor though. And I want people in the chat to also hold me to account to it. Please, I want to promote Joe more on my YouTube channel and also on X. So, Joe, the reason I might not share a video is just because I'm too busy, or I'm too in my own head, or I'm doing other things. But please come on and let me know. Send me a WhatsApp when you release a video and say, can you please share this? And I will gladly do it, please. So
Or
thank
you
you.
can have me on your show for an unfiltered conversation.
That's good. When
Yeah.
do you want one? We can set it up whenever.
Uh, I'm working on a project at the moment, so perhaps once
You
that
see, this
project
is not
comes
always
out.
it. It's like I would love to come, and then it's like, okay, well, let's
No, no,
make
no, no,
it
no.
happen.
Listen. I'm working on a very important project. I'm not kidding. I'll after the show, I'll fill you in. I'm keeping
Mm.
it close to the chest, but you're gonna want to interview me after that project comes out. Trust me. But we'll chat about it just now. Ronaldo,
Oh, okay.
thank you so much once again. And like I said, anytime you want to come on the show, we'll make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Renaldo Gouws, a very nice guy. And I know later on, if anybody watches this podcast, people are going to be like, he's still a racist. No, he's not. Ladies and gentlemen, he's never been a racist. He's actually been a very stand up guy and principled. And we're good friends. So I'm definitely going to have him back on the show if he's willing to. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you that gave super thanks or Sasa thanks, thank you guys so much. Don't forget to go and vote for me on the Young Leaders Awards. I'm part of the media category. Link is in the description. I need you guys to vote. You only need to vote once. Don't vote multiple times. Duplicates do not count. Please vote for me. I'm a finalist, and I think in June they announce the winner. So let's make this happen. Share it with all your friends and family. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. It's been one hell of an interesting conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, thanks for all the super thanks or Sasa thanks. And tomorrow morning, another news flash coming out. You're going to want to watch it. It's about the deeds office and them wanting to, another racial law coming in, put it that way. They want to know what race you are when you buy a house. And I put some puzzles together. It's very interesting. Check it out tomorrow morning, 6:30 in the morning. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your evening. Cheers.